Does the COVID vaccine cause toxic nanoparticles to accumulate in your ovaries, causing you to be sterile? Latest. Hi friends, I am Dr. Natalie Crawford. I'm a board certified OBGYN and REI, which means reproductive endocrinology and infertility specialist. And today we're talking about the COVID vaccine again because there's more misinformation going around. And this time I think it is so important that we break it down because it is scary when people tell you something is attacking your ovaries. So here we go, busting more misinformation. This is the latest rumor that has gone viral and I have gotten sent it so many times on Instagram. You can always follow me along on Instagram at Natalie Crawford MD. I talk about all kinds of things over on the gram, but I want you to have the facts. My personal stance is that I care about you getting pregnant if you want to be pregnant now or in the future. I care about your reproductive health. That's what I've dedicated my entire career to doing. And if there was something that would harm your fertility, let's say marijuana, I would tell you not to do it. I have no problem telling you not to do that. Have a whole video on it. But I want you to be healthy and I want you to have the highest chance of having the baby you want to have. So I am not about to advocate for a vaccine that's going to cause you to be sterile. But this started with a tweet. And so there's a tweet from Nurse Erin, who I do not know, but let's see it. There is evidence to suggest that the COVID mRNA LNP lipid nanoparticle are adhering themselves to human organs, i.e. female ovaries. No long-term studies. You can never get unvaccinated. Leaked confidential study from Pfizer. And then she puts up a chart. Okay, I've been sent this so many times. Let's break it down. As always, if you want to support me and talking about fertility, I'd love it if you would subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with friends. All right, so let's just start by talking about the basics. So for a while, people have been talking about the fact that COVID has a spike protein and that the vaccine is making antibodies to the spike protein and that the spike protein is toxic to you, which has been shown to be false many times. There's no evidence that the spike protein is toxic. It's just what is unique about COVID. So now let's talk about lipid nanoparticles. So I'm going to put up this chart. I'm gonna let it take over the whole screen. So I'm gonna explain it to you a little bit because this is out of a report, a pharmacokinetics, which means looking at how drugs are metabolized in the body. And so you can see this says pharmacokinetics organ distribution. Okay, this is uptake of these radio-labeled nanoparticles. They labeled them for the point of the study. So there's a whole list of organs and we nicely for us have ovaries highlighted really highly. And then we have a different time period. So a quarter of an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, 24, 48 hours. So this is not looking at anything besides 48 hours, and it shows the highest uptake or total lipid concentration in the ovaries at 48 hours in the ovaries, except for if you scroll down, you'll see there's also a really high uptake in the spleen. Let's talk about this. First, what do the ovaries do? I love the ovaries. You guys know they're my favorite. And so I always say the ovary is a hormone producing factory. Making eggs is a byproduct. Its main job is to make hormones. That's what the ovary loves to do. And its hormone du jour is estrogen. Loves to make estrogen when you're making an egg. But it also can make testosterone and it makes progesterone. These are all called steroid hormones. Now, let's just think about this because I know a lot of people didn't go to medical school and didn't study all of this stuff. And for any of you who are watching who are medical students, you're going to learn some things you can now get a board question right. So how does your ovary make steroid hormones? Does it just like poof, create them out of thin air? It doesn't. That's a no. So your ovary creates steroid hormones by allowing in a certain substance that is the substrate or the backbone that can then be metabolized into the creation of these hormones. And so in medical school, we have to learn about this called the steroid hormone pathway. Let me put up a nice little picture of it here. This is every REI's most favorite and least favorite thing. We have to draw this out when we get board exams and know it left and right. This is what's happening. This is why the ovary is a steroid making factory. It's a hormone making factory that loves to make steroid hormones. But let's highlight something. What's coming in? It's cholesterol. Cholesterol. Do you know what cholesterol is? It's a fat. Do you know what lipid nanoparticles are? Lipids are fat. So the ovary uptakes lipids or fats and lets them in so that they can then be metabolized into making hormones, the hormones that it loves to make. And this process, it doesn't happen in 1 or 2 hours. It takes a really long time. But are you surprised to find out that the organ in your body that is responsible for making hormones and makes them from lipids has one of the highest uptakes of lipids? I'm not at all. To me, that is 0% concerning. That's actually what my hypothesis would be. If you told me that Dr. Bridle was going to do this study and inject mice with the mRNA vaccine and then radiolabel the lipid nanoparticles, and then 2 days afterward, kill all the mice and look at the distribution of these lipid nanoparticles in their different organs, I would tell you that the ovaries would have one of the highest uptakes because it makes sense. That's what the ovaries do. And so here we are taking normal physiology and blowing it way out of proportion. Like, this is the expected outcome. So the other problems with this, besides this being a non-significant finding, let's say number one is the study. So this is a biodistribution study, as I said, in rats or mice, and they were given a 50 microgram dose of the vaccine. Now, what you get if you're a human, you got the vaccine, was a 30 microgram dose, and you're much bigger than a rat. Anyways, you're much bigger. So the relative dose to body weight difference is like 400 times different. The little rat got 400 times the dose of what you would get. And they do that on purpose so that they can see an exaggerated result to maybe show something. Because if you gave the normal weight proportionate dose, it may be hard to find any lipid nanoparticles anywhere. And then let's talk about the second part of that graph that wasn't seen quite as much. And so this graph right here is showing us the percent of the dose given that was actually found in the organs, even at a dose that was so much higher than we would give to a humans. And it was less than 0.1%. And again, rat study, not human study. The rats were given just the lipid nanoparticles at a really high dose, not the vaccine like the humans are getting. And these results are what we would expect if the ovaries are functioning normally. And then there's a rumor that Dr. Bridle, even though he doesn't believe in COVID and spread some misinformation, is actually now trying to get into the COVID vaccine treatment manufacturing department, maybe because it's profitable. I'm not sure. Rumor, but that would give him some bias into interpreting data. And then let's talk about the other studies that we have that actually look at the vaccine in humans and ovarian function. We have seen that women who undergo egg retrieval for IVF, so patients I work with all the time, had no difference in outcomes after getting the vaccine or not. There was no difference in ovarian response or function. We also had another study showing that there were no difference in pregnancies after women got the COVID vaccine if they were undergoing IVF. So here are some fertility-based studies showing us no change in function or pregnancy rate. We have another study looking at if there was difference in pregnancy outcomes in moms who got the vaccine, like does the placenta not work? We've seen no difference in implantation rates, miscarriage rates, stillbirth rates, anything in people who've gotten vaccinated or who have not gotten vaccinated. And so this research paper about biodistribution in rats is showing us a conclusion that makes sense, that the ovaries are uptaking lipid particles. And all the other science that's out there shows us that nothing supports the fact that the COVID-19 vaccine that is mRNA based is going to cause any issues with fertility at all. And we were looking at it. I want to end by saying, yes, I have a whole video on period irregularities and we're getting more data. We definitely do see an abnormal menstrual cycle after getting a COVID vaccine. It does not appear to be everybody. I would estimate it's about a quarter. The endometrium, the lining of the uterus, what you bleed off every month, what's essential for a pregnancy to implant is a immune responsive tissue. And I say this in my other video, but what it does is it reacts to immune cells. That's great. That's really helpful in implantation. And so we think this abnormal bleeding is not necessarily abnormal ovarian function or brain function, but truly a response to inflammation or activation of the immune system inside the endometrial cavity that then makes it unstable and so you bleed. This appears to be temporary and should resolve within 1 to 2 cycles. So nothing that we're truly concerned about. I'm having my patients undergoing fertility still get the vaccine, and I'm hearing lots of reports of people even having improved fertility perhaps from activating that immune system inside the endometrium, which is a hot topic of research outside of COVID and the vaccine and the fertility world in general about how do we help with immune responses inside the endometrium for implantation. But you should be able to make the choice to get the vaccine or not get the vaccine based on your own desires and not based on fear of your fertility. I get it. I want you to be able to have the family you want to have. And if somebody tells you that a choice that you're making is going to negatively impact your fertility in the future, you should pause and think about that because we don't want to do things that are going to make it harder. But by pausing and thinking about it, we're going to do more research than just taking things at face value. And we're going to make decisions about our reproductive health based on facts and not out of fear. Again, I am Natalie Crawford. I am a fertility doctor in Austin, Texas at Fora Fertility. You can follow me on Instagram at Natalie Crawford MD. Would love it if you would subscribe to the channel. And you can always listen to the As a Woman podcast for more in-depth fertility related episodes. Thanks, friends.